Today I got Bill from Kane's Legacy and Kane's Insight. Bill, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Anytime you get a W, feels good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Now, guys, I did mention on the channel that I've been a little bit sick lately. That's why it's been a lack of content, but we're back. If I start coughing or anything like that, that's why I'm doing that to you guys and to you, Bill. But we're going to break down the game and things like that, but we're going to get into details. But hey, 4-1. What do you think? We're 4-1. 5 games in, we're 4-1. Did you think we'd be 4-1? And how does it feel to be 4-1?
One feels good. This is kind of where I expected us to be. I thought we'd be in that 9-2 range. We knew Clemson was most likely going to be an L, but we took care of business the first 3 weeks. Took a step back with how we performed against Clemson, not necessarily that we lost, but we bounced back today, got a win over a solid Pitt team with a good defense. So we're 4-1. The sky's the limit with this team. Every game on the schedule the rest of the year is winnable. There's no Clemson type level talent that we're going to be going up against. We got some tough games against Virginia Tech, North Carolina, but those are definitely winnable games.
So we're 4-1 and 5 games into the season. And like I said, I want to get right into our win over the Pitt Panthers. But I want you to tell me one thing that has surprised you so far this season. And I'll tell you one thing or one person that has really surprised me, especially when you look at what we saw today, is Corey Flagg. I thought Corey Flagg, and I said it on the last instant reaction. I was like, what is Corey Flagg doing out there? I didn't think this would be his year. I thought it would be Zach McCloud's year. And I thought it would be Zach McCloud and then Corey Flagg coming in after him. But to me, Corey Flagg has, the last couple games at least, has been one of our most active linebackers. And he isn't just the best linebacker in the world, but he's all over the field. If he misses a play, he has the makeup speed. He doesn't seem out of place. So I definitely want to give a shout out to Corey Flagg. So, Bill, tell me your thoughts on Corey Flagg, and then give me one thing that has surprised you 5 games in.
No, Corey Flagg is definitely a good one as a surprise. Coming out of high school, the knock on him was, he wasn't fast enough. He was just going to kind of be this, 2-down type linebacker. But, what we learned over the last few weeks is, yeah, he may not be the fastest guy, but he's instinctive. And when you're instinctive, you play fast, you look faster than you actually are. I'll use Jaquan Johnson as an example where, you line him up and tell him to run as fast as he can in a straight line. He's not that fast, but, he's smart, he's instinctive. And, when he was on the field, he looked a lot faster than he was. So Corey Flagg, kind of in that similar instinctive, smart player, high IQ. He's only going to get better too. Don't forget he wasn't here for spring ball. Even though we only had 4 practices, he wasn't here for that type of training. So he started behind pretty much everyone else, and he's already risen. And he looks right now to be our best linebacker. Him and Sam Brooks. Zach McCloud and Bradley Jennings haven't been impressive at all this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Corey Flagg. But my biggest surprise is going to be Bubba Bolden. I knew he was a good player. I knew he was going to make an impact, but he's really taken it to the next level, and he looks like a high NFL draft pick, round 1, round 2 type talent. And when he's on the field, you see the difference in how the defense performs. He's got the attitude. He's a leader. He's the the rah-rah type guy too. You saw him the bloody face last week against Clemson trying to get them back into the game. But I think he's been the biggest surprise, at least in my eyes, for this team.
Yeah, when I look at Bubba Bolden, I really love this kid, and not because the bloody face thing, that's cool. But what I really like about it is, he backs that up on the field. He literally lays his body out there. And just today, I recorded a play where Jalen Phillips swings the guy 15 yards. Bubba Bolden doesn't quit on the play, and Bubba Bolden's actually the guy who ends up knocking the guy out of bounds. And I mean, when he hit him, he really hit this guy, gets up talking in his face. And that's the type of player that I like. You know, if you're going to talk it, you got to be able to back it up. And I think Bubba Bolden does both of that. So here's my question. Why wasn't Bubba Bolden starting today?
That's a great question. Only Blake Baker can answer that one. I don't know if he was banged up or something happened pregame. But there's no logical reason for Bubba Bolden to not be on the field starting. I tweeted this last week after Clemson, or maybe before Clemson. But Bubba Bolden is one of the few guys on our roster, on defense at least, that should never come off the field unless he's tired. He shouldn't be rotated in or out just based on play count or anything like that. He's tired, pull him out, but he should not be coming off the field for any reason.
What do you think our best safety combination is?
Bolden and Hall. Amari Carter is who he is. He's kind of that box safety. He should actually probably play in that striker role. But when Bubba Bolden is out there, our safeties take the next step. And I think Gervin Hall can run a little bit. He's a little looser than Amari Carter is. But I think those two is our best duo at this point.
As somebody who's a part of the fan base, do you think it's right for us fans to ask that question? To me, that's the first question. If I'm one of these guys that has the media access, is why? To me, that's inexcusable. Unless he skipped practice, unless he's getting punished, which there's been no mention of, how do you not put him on the field?
No, that's certainly a question that has to be asked. It's the reporter's job to find out what the fans want to know. And, we as fans want to know that. Why isn't our best safety on the field? He's, one of the top 2 or 3 defensive players, depending on how you want to rank him. But, why isn't he starting? Something doesn't seem right with that. He hasn't performed poorly at all. He's been one of our best players. So hopefully someone asks that and, we get a straight answer from the coaches instead of just coach speak.
So you look at this game and this is something that I've noticed ever since Manny Diaz has been the coach. And maybe I don't remember it, but it seems like once Blake Baker got in at defensive coordinator, and I'm not trying to blame him, but that's why I love to ask these questions, because I may be wrong. But in my opinion, and you tell me if I'm crazy or not, I think our linebackers and our safeties, I believe they rotate too much. I believe there's a difference between Bubba Bolden's tired or Bubba Bolden needs to be talked to, rather than, okay, Bubba Bolden, you get a series, then Amari Carter gets a series. All right, Bradley Jennings, you get a series. All right, Sam Brooks gets a series. To me, I feel like that hurts the camaraderie of our defense when, a player can do good. I use this example versus Clemson. Sam Brooks makes 2 back-to-back plays. He gets rotated out. Bill, I'm asking you, do you know what are the pros and cons of how we rotate players, and do you think we're rotating them in too much?
Oh, yes, I think we're rotating them too much. I agree with everything you said. I've been saying this for a little while. Even before Baker got here and Diaz was the defensive coordinator, we were always a heavy rotation type team. The pros to that is, you keep everyone fresh. You kind of find out who has the hot hand, I guess you could say, and then you can roll with them later. But it just seems like we're just rotating for the sake of rotating. Another pro, which I was actually thinking of the other day, is, all these guys are getting playing time. It keeps them happy. Maybe it stops people from transferring. But at the end of the day, this isn't, rec league football or basketball, whatever, where everyone gets to play and everyone, gets a trophy at the end of the year. We're here to win, and you need to figure out who the best players are, and they need to be playing, the majority of those snaps. Now, if we have a situation where, there wasn't a huge difference in talent or production from Bubba Bolden and, Amari Carter, say, then you can rotate them and it's probably not that big of a deal. But when there is that obvious talent gap, or when, those players aren't getting it done and making mistakes, you got to go with the guy that's playing better and it's going to give you the best chance to win. Especially at linebacker, Corey Flagg and Sam Brooks have been outperforming, the 2 upperclassmen, the last couple of weeks. They should be the ones starting. Let them, get their shot. if they continue playing well, they've earned it. And that's the end of it. If they make the same mistakes that, McLeod and Jennings are making, then yeah, you can go back to those guys if you want. But, when players are earning it on the field, they have to be rewarded with either more snaps or, even those starting spots.
All right, guys. We got Bills from K's Legacy and K's Insight. For all their information, the link will be in the description. Make sure you check that out, guys. So we're going to stick with the defense, and then we'll talk about the offense. But defensively, Joey Yellen, true freshman quarterback, he comes in because Kenny Pickett can't go. So we go up against Joey Yellen. I hope I said his name right. I apologize if I didn't. But he goes 22 of 46, 227 yards, 1 touchdown. What are your thoughts on the defensive play today? And let's do a Baker check. Is he on the hot seat?
No.
According to you, if it was up to you, would he be on the hot seat?
No, not for today. We gave up 19 points, which is great, in today's era of college football. 10 of those points were off of turnovers. 1 interception was returned down to the 1, and they scored a touchdown on the next play. So realistically, they held Pitt to, what was that, 9 points. They bent. This is kind of Blake Baker's thing, bend but don't break. We held them to field goals. That's great. We got one turnover. Quincy Roche took the ball right out of the quarterback's hands on a sack. It wasn't perfect by any means. We did have some receivers running free through the secondary. The pass rush wasn't as consistent as I thought it would be. But at the end of the day, they made the plays they needed to. They didn't give up touchdowns, and we got the W.
I thought that was the biggest thing is we bent, but we didn't break. And when you really look at it, you make a lot of sense, Bill. You look at, King put them in a couple bad situations. They get a defensive touchdown, and that's really what kept them in this game. And, when you look at the special teams and you look at the defense, they really did their job, I thought. My only thing, and I think I've talked to Chris, and Chris has mentioned this too, my only thing with Blake Baker is this. I really feel like our defensive line is one of the best in the country. When you really look at what happened today, goodness. Nesta was everywhere. Quincy Roche, whether if it's an end around or if it's a sack. Jalen Phillips, he shows. Harvey Hunt. I feel like I'm not a fan of the exotic zone blitzes. So the blitzes where we may drop a Quincy Roche in the coverage, or a blitz where we're bringing a safety 10 yards away once the ball is snapped. What are your thoughts on those different type of blitzes and just how our D-line performed today?
I thought the defensive line, played pretty good. I'm especially impressed with Jared Harrison-Hunt as a redshirt freshman. He continues to show flashes pretty much every game with the exception of Clemson, I think. But he's a young guy. He's out there. He looks like a future star for this defensive line. Roche, Phillips, they had, a pretty solid game too. They got some pressures. They got the one takeaway. But in terms of Blake Baker and his, blitz scheme, it's okay, at least for me, to do those things once in a while, where you really confuse the defense, you confuse the offense. We saw it against Clemson where Roche dropped into coverage and almost picked off Trevor Lawrence. Once in a while I think is good, but when you're constantly doing those things and the offense kind of knows it's coming, that's when it's easy to pick apart when you're blitzing from depth. It takes you, a couple seconds just to get to the line of scrimmage before you get those pressures, and smart, accurate quarterbacks can easily pick that apart. Which we saw happen, last week with Trevor Lawrence. But that's who we are. We're aggressive. We want to be different. We want to be exotic. We're kind of a high risk, high reward type defense as well when we do conduct those blitzes. So, we're going to get burned with it a few times, but we're also going to make some plays from it.
Give me your MVP on the defensive side from today's game.
From the defensive side, I'm going to go with Quincy Roche, that turnover, the timing of it, how he, just pretty much took it from the quarterback. That was a big play in the game. So I thought he was everywhere. I don't think he had any, mistakes, any penalties. So he kind of cleaned up his game, showing improvement. But he looked every bit of, the athletic defensive end that we thought we were getting in the transfer market. I also want to shout out Isaiah Dunson for that tackle on that fake punt. That was a big play in the game as well. Not that, he would be the MVP for that specific play, but I thought that was a huge turning point. Pitt picks up that first down. There's a lot of room behind him, but he shed the block, made the tackle, and, gave us good field position, which we got points off of.
I would say, and I think both of those are two good ones, especially Dunson on that fake punt. And Quincy Roche, man, to me, the first couple games, I was like, is this the guy that we thought we were getting? And then as the season goes on, he just keeps getting better and better. And today, I think, was his best game, man, especially on a lot of people look at the play where he took the ball from the guy, which was amazing, the sack. But that end around play is a play that stands out to me because that takes discipline, because you want to rush in. But because he did his job and he squeezed down the line and had the outside like he was supposed to, and it's an open field tackle that a lot of defensive ends probably couldn't make. So, I definitely have no disagreement with that.
Yeah, him and Jalen Phillips have both made plays off that, jet sweep end around type play where, most defensive or, probably 99% of college defensive ends, they don't make that play. They're either not athletic enough or they're not smart enough. And our defensive ends eat when that play comes their way. That's a great call out.
I think MVP. Well, I gotta give a shout out to Corey Flagg only because I got two MVPs. I'm gonna give one to Corey Flagg only because I did make the comment, why is Corey Flagg on the field? And people have been hitting me up. Why you said Corey Flagg? Look at him now. And I just don't think if somebody would have talked to me before the season about our linebackers, I probably would have mentioned Sam Brooks. I would have mentioned Avery Huff. I would have mentioned McLeod before Corey Flagg. And then you make a great point about him not even getting spring practice. Another thing is I saw him make an amazing play on special teams. So he's doing it all, man. And I want to give a shout out to that kid because if he does what he does the next two games, I think towards the end of the season he should at least be starting. But also to Corey Couch. Corey Couch has been getting tested a lot, and I could be wrong. I'm sure somebody will let me know, but there's not a lot of times where I see him out of position. I've seen him give up catches, but it seems especially when it's man-to-man, he's in position to make a play. What do you think about Corey?
No, he had a great game. What I really liked about him, it happened on at least two occasions. Passes down the field, he was right on the receiver's hip, and he did exactly what you were supposed to do. He turned, and located the ball, to get the pass breakup, but it also prevents pass interferences from being called because you're looking for the ball and you're allowed a little bit more contact, so long as you're looking backwards. But he was sticky today, I thought. We put out a good, bad, ugly, after every game, and he was in the good column. So, it'd be great if he continues to improve and, gives us another, legitimate option at cornerback.
So that makes us feel good. When we do look at this defense, we mentioned Hunt, who has several years left. We mentioned Corey Flagg, who has several years left. We mentioned Corey Couch. So that's three young players from each level of the defense that could be starters for us at a young age. So I think that bodes well for us down the line.
No, definitely. I just hope that, the coaching staff, sees this and they know that, hey, these guys are our future and they're also the present too. These guys are, the better players. They're better than the upperclassmen that, are getting reps and getting, the majority of playing time. And I think that these guys have earned, a very much increased role, next week and going forward.
So we want to talk about the offense, but you made me think of a question that I have. So I talk about how young these guys are and how they're making plays now. But do we have a problem with our coaching staff in developing players? For instance, when you look at our best players on this team, a lot of people can make the argument that our best players are transfers. Bubba Bolden, Quincy Roche, Jalen Phillips, De'Aaron King. These guys are transfers coming in. And then when I get back to my development question, I look at a player like Zach McCloud, who as a freshman, people raved about those three linebackers. And as the years went on, it seemed like they got worse. Trajan Bandy's a guy who, when he was a freshman, I thought that, there was high talk about this kid. And not that he played horrible his last year, but it felt like his development didn't go as we thought. So why does it seem like our best players are transfers? And do we have a development problem at the University of Miami?
On the defensive side, yes, we do. Offensively, we have a new staff, and so the jury's still out. But yeah, you brought up Zach McCloud. I think he's probably the prime example. Here comes a incoming freshman, what appears to be an athletic linebacker. And is he better today than he was as a freshman? If maybe a little, but even if that's the correct answer and there's hesitation, that something isn't right. We've had guys improve. I think Banda does a pretty good job with his safeties, for the most part. And there's going to be one-offs here and there. And for the cornerbacks, I think DJ Ivey's improved, especially from game one to now. Al Blades has improved. You brought up Trajan Bandy. I think he's an interesting one because they started playing him on the outside, later in his career, when he's your prototypical slot corner, and that's where he excelled as a freshman. We also may be playing guys out of position too. But I think the defensive line. Stroud has done a great job with all them. Really, the only call out with them is John Ford. I don't think he became what they thought he could be or wanted to be. But you see the progression on the defensive line. I think it's more, linebacker is the big one. And then, we have some cornerback issues as well.
It does. Shout out to Al Blades. I thought he played well. DJ Ivey has played better. There's a couple times where I see him chasing the wide receiver, but hey, you chase him, you bring him down. The bottom line is, in this era, you can't guard forever. So shout out to our corners are playing good, and then you add to Corey Couch as well. So, all right, let's get to the offensive side because that is the hot topic. So let's start with De'Aaron King. We're going to talk about the wide receivers, but let's talk about De'Aaron King. Is De'Aaron – okay, let's see. He came in with a lot of hype. I love De'Aaron King. To me, De'Aaron King is our quarterback number one. But does De'Aaron King is he having problems throwing the ball? Does he have a problem connecting on long balls, throwing across the middle when he has to make reads? What are we thinking about De'Aaron King after back-to-back iffy games?
No, there's no question that it was two subpar games in a row. Clemson is its own different animal. The scheme got to him. The offensive line did him no favors. The receivers did him no favors. So I'm not even really thinking about Clemson. But strictly looking at today, Pitt's a legitimate defense, not just in the ACC but nationally as well. They had him looking confused at times. He was hesitating. There's no physical deficiency with King. He can throw the ball as far. He has, zip on it. Especially throwing the ball downfield. We'll talk about the receivers, but they don't help him much at all. Especially not even just with drops, but being physical. But on the one interception where they returned it down to the one, that was a great job by Pitt. They showed one look and then eventually dropped back into a cover two. And he had no idea that the defensive back was going to be where he was. So I think that he may have a deficiency in being able to read defenses to a certain point. He may have a little bit of the predetermined, I think I'm going to go here before the ball snapped, which is normal. A lot of quarterbacks do that. But, when you're facing a good defense that can take advantage of it and they have the physical talent, they can turn those mistakes into turnovers and eventually flip the momentum of the game.
I think, and this has been something at Houston too. I did like a little film breakdown. He does have a problem, and this is something we've seen the first couple games, is his passes deep, and we're going to talk about those wide receivers next. That wide receivers don't do him a good, don't give him a lot of help, but he does have trouble connecting with the deep ball. I think anybody who's watched film has seen that. Now, was that the wide receiver's fault? Is that King's fault? I think it's a little bit of both, because there's been a couple plays where King throws a great pass, the wide receiver don't make the play, and then there's been a couple plays where King throws the ball and it's not a good ball. It's not a good deep ball. But I will say this about King. When we had other quarterbacks, I'm not going to really say any names, but I felt as if they threw an interception, that was going to take them out of the game. But with King, I feel like if he makes a mistake, it's just on to the next play. If he gets sacked, it's on to the next play. A lot of times King does a great job of keeping us from getting sacked. So because of his mobility, he can, he can scramble and he can throw the ball away. Or on his way down, he can throw the ball away, which I like. What I like about King is he's a leader and he's a fighter. And to me, it seems like his emotions don't go up and down. They stay the same. And I think there's something to be said about that. What do you think?
No, yeah, his maturity is definitely one of his greatest assets. I've never seen him put his head down. I've never seen him, kind of throw his hands up or, kind of yell at the receivers after a drop or, miscommunication, anything like that. So he's kind of like that, a good baseball pitcher that they don't, they give up a home run and then, it doesn't affect them. They, get right back into it, strike out the next guy. His deep balls, they're lower percentage throws as it is. But it's definitely something that's probably going to hold him back in terms of trying to be an NFL quarterback. He put, against FSU, he put the one ball right on the money to D Wiggins in stride. But it seems like every other deep ball is either, short or he overthrows them. And just with those, the ones that come up short, that's when the receivers don't help him out. If they did, maybe we're having a different conversation in terms of, his accuracy downfield. But, as it stands now, that's the biggest, point of pain for us as an offense is we can't drive the ball downfield successfully. And that's letting the defense kind of tee off against our running game and our, zone read game.
And I think what we got to remember as a fan base is I think sometimes when we get a new player or we get a player, we think they can't make mistakes. King is going to make mistakes. He's human. Everybody makes mistakes. But my thing is, how does a player bounce back from that mistake? How does King bounce back from? And I think he bounced back strong. And I think he's our guy. And I know there's going to be a lot of people giving him slack. And if you want to talk about his accuracy down the field, I'm right along with you. Everybody can improve. I think that's where King needs to improve. But he's definitely our QB1. And I'm definitely happy to have him here at Miami. So I definitely want to say that. So let's get to those wide receivers, man. It's just getting bad now. And a lot of the comments that I read was, well, we won't face Clemson unless we go up against them in the ACC. So everybody doesn't have Clemson talent. And we went up against Pitt today, top 10 defense. They're really good. But I'm looking at how these DBs are playing. The DBs are literally right in our wide receivers' grill. They don't care. The DBs are biting on every short route. They don't care about the deep route. They're not even covering the middle of the field. It's D. Wiggins. You throw him a screen, hits the man right in his face. The deep ball, our body language at the wide receiver position is something that irritates me the most. If they don't catch the ball, They're flailing around like a fish, or they're complaining to the refs. Mike Harley makes a good catch, gets him a touchdown. And I'll talk about Pope a little bit later, but what do you think about our wide receivers, and what can we do 5 games in?
Well, they're the most disappointing unit on the team for me, right up there with linebacker. But, you mentioned that the defensive backs are, right in their faces all the time. And that's what I would do if I was a defensive coordinator. These guys are, when I say these guys, I mean Wiggins, Pope, and Harley. These guys are weak physically. They're smaller, guys, they're skinny. Yes, they have, speed, and, they can run. But even when they, create the little separation that they do, they're not even strong catchers. And what I mean by that is most of them are body catchers. They don't extend their hands out to catch the ball. They let it come to them, which makes the margin of error on the passes even smaller than it already is. But, you saw Wiggins get deep today. King threw a ball. It would have been a tough catch anyway, but, it hits him in the hands. He drops it, and then rolls around on the ground pretending he's hurt. And then, like you said, the negative body language. Harley, had a touchdown today. It was a nice play. It was a coverage bust, but, it was a great job of him by breaking that last tackle to get into the end zone. And then Mark Pope, it just seemed like he was the kind of the screen guy today. So, he had 5 catches for 46 yards. But, what we have right now probably isn't going to improve. They are who they are at this point. We did see Michael Redding get downfield, and he was strong enough, to stay on his route and drew a pass interference. I don't think that happens with, any of the 3 guys that I mentioned. So I would keep giving, the young guys reps, seeing what they can do. Keyshawn Smith had a catch today. He, got deep on that reverse pass against Clemson. So I would keep giving these guys reps, seeing what they can do. Let them build up a rapport with, King, and maybe by, end of this year, one of these guys emerges as a true number 1, or at least these guys emerge and surpass the current group of upperclassmen that just at this point aren't getting it done.
Today, I think we need, and I agree with what you said, and I want to go into that. I think Smith should be starting on the outside, and I think we got to move Pope to the inside. Pope today is the Pope that I think we got to expect to get. He's going to catch those screens. He's going to catch those short routes. And if he can break a tackle, it may be a big game. But if not, it's going to be a 5 to 6 to 7 yard game. He's going to catch those. I like Pope, the Pope that I saw today. I don't like Pope on the outside running the go route, because to me, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, he doesn't have the size advantage. I have yet to see him just run by somebody straight line. I think the Pope that we got today is somebody that can be a threat in the way that we used him today. And like you said, Smith was able to create a pass interference that wasn't called, but we all saw what it was. He's been able to get behind the defense. Mike Harley and D. Wiggins, are we ready to give up on them too, or before you answer me this, who do you think would be the better slot, Mike Harley or Pope?
I would go with Pope at this point. They both struggled with drops, but I think Pope gives you a little bit more explosion, and he can do a little bit more when the ball's in his hands. They both go down relatively easy, when a defender touches them. But I think Pope gives you a little bit more wiggle and a little more explosion. And I think he's better on, the bubble screens or the tunnel screens than Harley is.
Okay, and then are we ready to give up on D. Wiggins, Harley, and Pope, and just go with a youth movement at wide receiver?
I don't think you give up on them in terms of, okay, you guys aren't seeing the field anymore. We just don't have the bodies to do that. But, Harley's a senior. Pope and Wiggins are both juniors. They've been around. They are who they are at this point. Wiggins can run a really good deep post. That's pretty much the route he excels on. He's not going to really give you too much more outside of that. Harley, same thing. He's just is what he is. He's smaller. He's, on the skinnier side. His hands are a question. He does have speed. He can make a play when he does get the ball in space, but he doesn't create much separation in his routes anyway. But I think, we should have a youth movement at wide receiver, and, let's see what Redding, Smith, Restrepo can do with, increased reps, not only just in the games, but in practice as well.
What about Jeremiah Payton? To me, it seems like every time we throw him the ball, something happens. It's so weird. It's like, UAB, it was the horrible overthrow by King. Today it was his shoe falls off. What's up with Jeremiah Payton and your thoughts? To me, it's hard to explain. It's just weird stuff happens when we throw him the ball.
Yeah, when I initially saw his shoe off, I thought, oh, he got stepped on, and that's why it came off. But no, he just essentially ran right out of it. But he's still young. He's a redshirt freshman, so maybe it just hasn't clicked for him yet because he has the physical talent. He was a highly regarded recruit coming in. He's kind of a Green Tree All-American. At this point where the coaches rave about him. There's good words coming out of him from practice, but when the lights come on, he hasn't been anywhere to be found yet. I would put him in the category with the true freshman at this point because he is a younger guy. Keep getting him reps, practice games. Let's see what happens. Maybe he just needs a confidence boost. I know we said the same thing about Mark Pope, and that hasn't happened yet. But Payton is still a young guy. He has size. He has a little physical to him, and I think. Hopefully, he steps up and can be a contributor this year.
What are your thoughts on the offensive play calling today? Third down, we're running the ball on 3rd and long. We really didn't attack the middle of the field at all. The times we did, they ended up being touchdowns. Rhett Lashley, the first couple games we were ready to make him president. Now it seems like people aren't too happy with the offensive play calls. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he definitely was a little conservative at times today. But the first 3 games, it's a new offense. Wasn't the greatest competition. Louisville and FSU's defenses are terrible. UAB has a good group of 5 defense. So the competition difference has a factor in it. And I think he knew that, both Clemson and Pitt, and we'll focus on today with Pitt, they had a huge advantage on the defensive line. They got some NFL guys, across that defensive line. So I think he may be a little limited in what he wanted to do just because he knew that, we wouldn't be able to pull it off. But, those 2 calls up the middle with the fake QB draw, and sending the guys down the seams were brilliant play calls. The first time I saw Mallory in the backfield kind of lined up in that H-back role, I texted Chris and I said, we could send him down the seam. He's going to be wide open. It took us 2 quarters to do it, but, I think Lashley had that set up. He's a smart guy. He's setting stuff up. We still ended up scoring 31 points today, which, was good against Pitt's defense. I don't think they gave up more than 31 all year. I think BC may have gotten 30 last week in overtime. But it's a good defense we went against. We created the big plays when we needed to. But I think defenses are also starting to figure us out. They know that there is a huge deficiency on the outside and that they can just throw a corner on our receivers and that eliminates them, and they can move an extra guy or 2 up into the box to take away the run game that we want to get going.
Is our offensive line bad, or is it just the numbers game with so many people in the box? It's hard to block everybody.
I think this is probably an average unit at this point. You see some, we lose one-on-one matchups, but in terms of running, or we lose those one-on-one matchups, pass blocking. You saw Campbell get pushed back a few times today, and that's going to happen too. But in terms of the run game, we're not getting the push that we did earlier in the year because we're going up against much better defensive lines. But there's also, an increased presence in the box because they don't have to worry about the wide receivers, getting downfield and creating big plays. So that's going to be Lashley's biggest challenge going forward is, okay, how do we, get around all these people in the box and not having wide receivers that can make plays on the outside. The good news is Clemson and Pitt are by far the best defenses we're going to face all year. So we're going to face lesser talent, which should open up some more things that we can do. But if we get that rematch with Clemson, that's going to be real interesting to see how Lashley comes out and attacks that, knowing what Clemson's going to do.
All right, so next up we got Virginia. Miami, we're 4-1 going into playing Virginia. How do you feel about being 4-1 right now? When everything's said and done about today, how do you feel about the performance today? And then what are your early expectations for this Virginia game?
So I thought today went as expected. I knew Pitt was going to be able to slow us down a little bit, but I also knew that we'd be able to make some plays against them. Kenny Pickett not playing kind of factored into everything too, because we didn't know that earlier in the week. But I thought the defense was impressive. They got plenty of stops early on, held them to field goals. That's all well and good. This was the game that we would typically lose, in the last 10, 15 years. We have a bad performance the week before, we put our heads down, we'd come out not focused and then lose to someone that we shouldn't. Pitt being, a solid team. I know they're 3-3. But like I said before, that defense is a legit unit. And they do have some, players on offense that can make plays. So, double digit win. We ended up winning by 12. So 2 touchdown win. I'm not perfect, but I don't think, there's a reason to put our heads down and say, we're going to lose other games because of what we saw today. In terms of Virginia, that's a game that, we can put up points against. They gave up, they only gave up 41 to Clemson, but they did give up 38 to NC State. So I think that's a good game to potentially bounce back and, kind of have that explosive performance, that we saw against Louisville and FSU.
So I look at today as, is anybody shocked? That's my question. If you watch the first 4 games, are you shocked by how today went? Think about it. Wide receivers, not much of an impact. We've really said that most of the year. I think we can look at the Florida State game when D. Wiggins hit a big one, but that's probably really the only big wide receiver play that I can think. The defense has been bend but don't break all year. We raved about Bubba Bolden. We raved about the defensive line. On offense, we scored 2 touchdowns with our tight ends, and we ran the ball. This it's really not shocking when you really break it down, because we've been seeing this all year. I think, I'm not saying that I'm ready to throw a parade, but man, we're 4-1. Our only loss is to Clemson, who beat somebody 73 to something today. Hey, let's just not it's okay to critique, and we got some stuff to work on, but enjoy the victories, because if we start losing, trust me, we lost a lot last year, and I know how losing feels. I enjoyed the wins, and we won by 12 points. So we got a lot to work on, but it's the same thing that we've been having to work on, so we really shouldn't be shocked. Going into this Virginia game, I think it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot like what happened today. Bronco Mendenhall is a well-respected coach. They got a safety and a corner that I really like a lot. I think Booth and Grant is his name as the cornerback. I think they're going to be able to basically do what Pitt did with us today. There's going to be some times where Rhett Lashley looks good. There's going to be some times where, because our wide receivers can't make plays, we're going to look bad. But I think ultimately our defense is going to end up winning us the game. De'Aaron King, we always got a chance when we got De'Aaron King in the game, because we saw today he was able to do a couple quarterback runs that helped us out a lot. And Virginia's starting quarterback is out today. I don't know if he's going to be out against us next week, but he is out today. So there's a possibility that we could be playing another backup quarterback or a quarterback who isn't 100%. So when you really look at that, hey, I mean, I really like. I just keep thinking about Denny Green saying it. They are who we thought they were. In our Miami Hurricanes, we are what we've been all year. We just gotta hope that we get better. Bill, man, let's talk about this before we go to special teams. It's crazy how I feel like in life you got to go through some tough times to appreciate the good ones. And because of our tough field goal position that we were in last year, this year it just feels so good every time we kick a field goal. It feels so good when Lou Headley, who he did it last year too, but 60-yard punts. You just really appreciate the special teams, man. Go ahead and talk about Lou and Jose real quick. Let's give them some love.
It's so refreshing to not have to worry about punting a ball or, making a chip shot field goal. With Lou Headley, you think back to, 2017 or 2018, we're coming off, a good year. We open up against LSU and, Fiegels can't punt the ball more than 20 yards. So, just having a guy that could flip the field position like he can, when you pair that with, a defense like ours, that makes a huge difference, especially, when we are able to create turnovers and negative plays. So us going, 3 and out on offense on our side of the field, we punt the ball and, they're stuck within their, own 20-yard line. That's big. That doesn't show up in the stat sheet anywhere. It's kind of an analytics thing, but that's a lot of hidden yards, that's in our favor because of them or because of Lou Headley. And then with Borregales, just the ability to make chip shots is, a breath of fresh air. But knowing that, he can connect from, 50, 60 yards, that's also just a mental, boost for the team, especially the offense, where, maybe they, drive down the field, they get stopped. But hey, we can get points out of this, and it's a positive drive. Last year, we can drive the ball down to the 15, 20-yard line, and it's we're probably not going to get points if we get stopped. So those two guys are going to be in the NFL. They're going to be productive NFL kickers and punters. So that it's nice to have them and not have to worry about that part of the game.
That is a fact, man. And I just look at the example of Rhett Lashley. We're in field goal range, and he runs the ball on third down. It was towards the end of the game, and I spend my whole time on Twitter, so I always like to reference what people say on Twitter because I feel like that's where most of our fan base is. And some people weren't happy with him running on third down, and I was like, hey, the end of the game, I'm okay with this third down run because, one, we want to we get the ball back to our defense, we extend the lead, and we know we're going to make this field goal. Let's just kick the field goal, be up 2 positions, and we win the game. I'm okay with that, and the reason I'm okay with that is because we got Jose Borregales coming out, kicking the field goal, and I'm sure the reason that helps the offensive coordinator say, okay, we can run a safe run here because we know we're going to get an automatic 3. Whereas last year, we remember the Virginia Tech game. We remember the Florida game. I don't even want to talk about the bad times, but, man, it really is refreshing, man. Do you think Jose comes back next year?
No, he's gone to the pros. He's earned it too. He's going to be drafted, I think, maybe even before the 7th round, because he's shown the leg, he's shown the consistency. his brother also is a recruit that'll be coming in, and he's going to take the reins from him. But I don't think he benefits from coming back in any way. His NFL draft stock is what it is, and he's only going to get stronger as he goes. But he's going to put on a show for those NFL scouts, booting 60-something yard field goals in front of their faces. So yeah, let's enjoy him while we still have him, over the rest of the season.
So big shout out to, I never want to do instant reaction without giving a shout out to Lou and Jose in our special teams unit. And then we also can add Isaiah Dunson on the special teams unit for making that kick. Today, the punt returners, Xavier Restrepo back there. Were you okay with that?
Yeah. What happened last week, where they touched the ball and he went to catch it. That ended up being a smart play because there was no downside to it. But we had Mark Pope back there, 2 fumbles in 3 games. He is what he is back there. We needed to make a change. I think Restrepo at some point over the rest of the season is going to make a big play back there. He's just been waiting for his opportunity. But as long as he can, catch the ball, that's an improvement from what we had going on earlier in the season.
All right. Well, hey, so we got Virginia next week. What are y'all guys doing on Cane's legacy for Miami versus Virginia?
So we post two articles every week on Cane's Insight. This week in Cane Ball, which highlights a big game from at some point in our past that coincides with the current week. And then we do a mailbag. So the mailbag will cover whatever, the readers want to know about Virginia. And we'll take a look at what's going on, when they play today. We'll see what their quarterback situation is. And we'll probably send out a few tweets, maybe even do, a quick preview of them as well.
All right, guys. Hey, we're going to put all their information in the description. You guys make sure you check out Cane's Legacy and Cane's Insight. The link will be in the description. And as always, guys, if you're rocking with the U, then you know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hey, Miami 4-1. Let's enjoy it, baby.